crimes, such as homicides and murders, that go unsolved. Sometimes we exhaust all credible leads and still have nothing. Or there's insufficient evidence to bring someone to justice and charge them in the case. Or witnesses do not come forward. Sometimes people deliberately prey on victims who think no one will care enough about to pursue justice on their behalf. Crimes go unsolved and the guilty go free for a lot of different reasons. That doesn't mean we stop working that case. Fortunately, there have been advances in science, particularly in the area of DNA testing, that can greatly assist law enforcement when certain types of evidence were originally collected. I don't want this to sound like a commercial for CSI or anything, but it is true enough that many crimes today are solved through science. And as some of you reported this January, late in 2011, the Department of Justice awarded $11 million in grants to agencies around the country to help offset the costly testing or retesting of DNA in cold cases. I am proud to report that JSO applied for and received $500,000 for this initiative. And I want to update you today on how that is going here at JSO. Let me break this down for you to let you know how the process works. The first criteria is the case must have occurred between 1990 and 2001. In this time period, there was no CODIS, which stands for Combined DNA Index System. There was no CODIS during that time period. In our 304 cases, our detectives are painstakingly reviewing the files, sometimes taking up to 6 hours per file. And this is just the first step to see if there is evidence there that needs to be processed. As of today, 173 of the cases have received this initial review, and 42 of them have been identified for additional follow-up by detectives. And this is where we look for the identification of specific evidence that is suitable for DNA examination. Keep in mind that right up until the point that something is sent into the laboratory for scientific examination, we're not 100% certain that it is suitable for testing or that testing might be successful. These newly tested items will also be entered into and compared with the current CODIS database. As you know, the database of DNA on both unidentified profiles and identified criminals in our federal, state, and local jurisdictions grows daily. And as you know, that is a significant database that's now been established and, as I said, is growing daily. Today, all cases where DNA is identified are automatically submitted to CODIS and checked against existing profiles in that system. What that means is the solvability of our current cases is higher. This is by virtue of the advancements in testing and ever-expanding CODIS database of our DNA. But for these older unsolved cases, that isn't necessarily true. As detectives set about their job 20 years ago, they had no idea that some of the items out there were important, and of course no one knew of the existence of DNA. Our sex crimes unit is also reviewing the unsolved cases for that period, sex crimes cases, I'm sorry, for that period, and today to review 354 sex crimes cases that we will be reviewing for this program. There's evidence that that can be tested, and it will certainly be looked at for their solvability criteria. We're going to keep checking these files and submitting those that meet the criteria until we run out of grant money. And we will apply for any future grant money that may become available for projects like this. It's my hope that we will ultimately learn in some of these cases, as we have in the past, the people we originally suspected can now be linked with hard evidence to the case, and those suspects be brought to justice. I also think we will learn that some of the parties responsible for these crimes are either dead or in prison already on other charges, which we've experienced in the past. We look forward to learning more about as these test results come back, but I wanted to talk to you today for this reason. First of all, to let the public know that every cold case we have is being reviewed, and we never stop trying to solve those cases. But it's also important that the public understand that with just a little bit of information, we can sometimes take that and begin to pull the thread on that investigation and actually solve a cold case with just a small tip from the community. And so to talk about some enhanced rewards that we're going to offer for these cold case investigations, I now want to ask Wiley Hodges from First Coast Crime Stoppers to say a word. Wiley?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm Wiley Hodges. I'm the Executive Director of First Coast Crime Stoppers. I'm pleased to have some of our board members, our board president, Van Cologne, and Brent, another director of our board, is here with us today. We're here today in support of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office efforts to try to generate some new information on these cold cases so that arrests and prosecutions can occur in these cases. Even though these cases are soon forgotten by most of the people, they are never forgotten by the family and the friends of the victims. In our efforts to generate new information on these cold cases, which the sheriff has spoken of, we're offering a $1,500 reward that will be paid upon arrest. This is $500 more than we normally offer, which is $1,000. As always, remember that any information that comes into Crime Stoppers is 100% anonymous. You will not ever be revealed by us. You will never have to go to court or anything else. You do remain 100% anonymous. Please help us. Please help us in getting this information. These suspects that we're talking about have killed once. They may very well kill again. And it could be someone in your family. So please, someone has information. Even though these cases are very old, someone still has information on these cases, I know. And all we need is just a little bit of information. Goes a long ways. And we ask that from you today. $1,500 paid upon arrest, 100% anonymous. The ways to reach us is various. We've got the phone number. You can call us on the web. You can call us on your cell phone. We're easy to get a hold of. Please call. Let us get that information. We will keep you anonymous, and hopefully we can solve some of these crimes. Thank you.
Any questions?
The extra $500 was just for the cases from 1990 to 2001?
Yes, those 170 or 304. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other criteria besides the date?
Pardon?
Is there any other criteria besides the date?
Well, besides the cases that the investigators have to go through and look at to see if there's evidence in there that needs to be processed, and whether finding DNA would be of any value to the case, because in some cases we know we're going to find their DNA because they admit being there. They admit, for example, in some of the sex cases, they admit having had sex with the victim, so that's not in dispute. And so the question is, will DNA help advance the case? And that's what they look for. That's really the criteria. But it comes out of that time period, yes. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sheriff, I want to make sure I get it straight. You said so far 173 cases have had that initial review. Are those homicides, or the sex cases, or there's both?
No, those are all homicides.
Those are all
homicides.
Right.
Right.
So among the 42 that need additional follow-up, I would assume that you would have told us if, hey, this has narrowed down and we've made an arrest. And has that borne fruit yet in terms of an arrest for somebody on this cold case because of this grant?
No, we're waiting for that information to be presented for testing and then to get the results back.
What exactly is the distinction between the review and the follow-up? Is the follow-up, does that indicate there's some reasonable cause to go pursue it further more
Yes.
than the other initial reviews?
Yes.
Like
like in the case I was just talking about, where having DNA may help advance the case or it may not. In some cases, the guy admits he was there, and you know who was there. So DNA testing really wouldn't be of any value in that case possibly. So the follow-up is once they review it and learn that there is DNA potentially there, will it help advance the case? And if it does, then we need to submit that.
So when you mentioned the sex crimes 354, that, is it that they should be reviewed or they're under review now?
Those are under review,
All of those.
all of those. Yes, ma'am.
Is DNA the only evidence that will be tested? Is there any other evidence that you might have that will fall under this?
No, all the other evidence has already been processed and evaluated. The change is we have DNA now that we didn't have back in the 90s. And in fact, they can even test at a smaller and more significantly smaller amounts than they could back when they first started with DNA. So all of that is to be reviewed.
But how much is an individual DNA test and who does the testing?
We sent it out to the FDLE lab. Now this, I think we're actually contracting with a lab to do the testing for us. And we're going to, on average, we submit about 4 items per case at about $869 per item. And so you're talking about a $3,400 investment in each one of these cases. So it's a pretty significant amount of money. That's why the detectives do the thorough review that they do before we even send the information off, or that piece of evidence off. Now, the other thing that would help in these cases, though, is why Mr. Hodges is here. Anybody that can give us a tip, that may give us, we may have somebody who's not in CODIS that we don't know, but somebody gives us a tip about that individual, and then we can start looking possibly to make that connection through another means. So the tip piece of this is significant. We need tips from the community about any of those cases that occurred from 90 to 2001.
Well, how much is the $1,000?
Actually, any of our cases, actually, but you can get an extra $500 for these cases.
Well, how much is the $1,000, the reward money, how much has that helped in the past? Have you issued a lot of those payouts for those rewards?
Yes, well, I'll let Wiley answer that.
I can't give you the number that have been cold cases. I can tell you since 2005 that our information has led to the arrest of 83 murder suspects that has come through the Crime Stoppers tips.
And how many of the $1,000 rewards have you issued?
Lord, we probably, it's hard to say. I think last year we put out around $200,000 in rewards. All those aren't for murders, of course. I'd be just guessing on the amount of murders. I don't know.
Have you done something like this before, where you've offered to increase the reward for a certain kind of case or a certain amount of time or anything like that? And does that make a difference in getting more tips?
We have ourselves increased some of the rewards, and there's a lot of times when the rewards are increased by someone in the public that wants to give, or a community or a group that wants to give an additional $5,000. We have several of them outstanding now where we have enhanced rewards that is specific to that case. And we will hold on to that until hopefully the cases are solved. But the answer is yes.
Does it make a difference? Do you see a difference in the numbers?
It's hard to say. That's one of the abstract questions. I don't know. It's most of the time, $1,000 will get some information if people have it. But certainly, enhanced rewards enhances information. It's a sad fact, but it's true.
Yeah, let me mention just rewards in general also, and tips. If you look at the clearance rates for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for the last several years, our clearance rates are well above, in most cases double digits above the national average. A big piece of that is because this community, I think, has been very successful in fighting back that don't snitch attitude. And I think Crime Stoppers is a big reason for that, because they can offer that tip and remain anonymous. And I believe more and more they're beginning to understand that and have faith in that anonymity. And so they're calling in more and more. Also with our gun bounty program, working with the chamber and getting that message out, you know, that you've got to see it, say it, stop it. All of that, and working with our community, seeing the involvement through our SHADCO, growing from 600 members to now over 3,000 members. That kind of community involvement is what keeps those tips coming in, and I evidence those tips as why our clearance rates are so incredibly high.
Can you clarify why you can only pull evidence going back to 1990?
That was the parameter on the grants. That was just one of the criteria that was used.
I just have one more question. You handed these out. Have there been any changes to the reporting process online on your website or anything of the grant? Have you made any changes to this based on grant money?
No,
Or is it
no, that's pretty much.
here?
Yep.
No changes.
No,
You can always tip through the website and still can.
Right.
You're talking about the webpage.
I don't understand the question, I guess.
I was just wondering if there had been any changes made to this through the grant, whether you had streamlined anything. If you had just made
Other than the
any changes.
QR code on there, that you can now get there just by taking the snapshot of the QR code and going right to our website.
It takes you right to the cold cases that are being looked at. It's an app, it's a new page that takes you
Okay.
right to those cases, so you can look and see.
So the app is new.
That's a new, yeah. That's new since we started this initiative, yes.
And the cold case webpage is new too, so having these cases available for you to click on and go to them and look at them, that was created for this purpose.
And that's new to
No,
me.
it wasn't paid for by the grant, there was no money.
Yeah, well, it's been up for a short time.
It's live today.
Yeah, it was part of this initiative.
What have the results been in other departments who have received grant money like this?
I can't answer that. Anybody know?
There's been some success.
There has been some increase?
You know where?
Last year was Hillsborough County, I believe, in Orlando. Both of them had success.
I think California did as well. That's the case in California. They're basically at the same point we are though, as far as getting the money and doing the same preparation work that we're doing. Most of the jurisdictions.
So you guys are now in the preparation phase of reviewing the cases that you want to
Because
send?
we're always, we'll always have a case or two or three solved in a year, a cold case, but we're hoping to have some significant numbers come out of this.
Okay.
Any more questions?
All right? Thank you all.
I got a lot of cold cases.